Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore, and I love Robert Downey Jr., not just because he's Iron Man, but because he's been able to rebuild himself back up. He's an inspiration and should be an inspiration to all of us. People forget the Robert Downey Jr. from the 1990s, and I'm not here to drudge up the past. He has rebuilt himself, and kudos to him, but I only bring up his past in proving to everyone that we've all been there, some of us worse than others, and sometimes we need to hit that bottom to really learn how to grow stronger and better. So he was on Stephen Colbert, and they talked about it, and I wanted to share it with you and talk about just Robert Downey Jr. Any excuse to be positive and share some amazing quotes and inspiration from Robert Downey Jr. is a good one to me. So I got to play a little bit because Colbert will ding me, but here, I just want to hear this one part.
I was really fortunate in that I was pre-internet.
And I got to pause there. He's right. Back then, there was media. There was a lot of places, newspapers and gossip stuff. But the internet was not around as prevalent as it was when he was really going crazy. So he was able to sort of probably got away with a lot more worse stuff than we even realized that would go in 2021 standards. My God, I don't think he probably wouldn't have been forgiven. But thankfully, it wasn't the internet age.
With much of my misbehavior. But I think I always had a bit of a moral psychology, and I always wanted to kind of do the right thing, which doesn't count for much. Mm-hmm. And
doesn't mean he did. It doesn't mean he didn't have his own struggles with alcohol, drugs, a lot of other stuff that took him into bad places.
And then I took it on the chin. I think whenever you get handed a true period of humiliation, I think that I'll speak to my own experience seeing it with other people. It's like I give them cred for dusting themselves off. And I hate to say it, it's a very American thing, to build up and break down and come back. It is, in its own weird way, it is the hero's journey. So, by the way, I could relate to Tony Stark a lot by the time I played him. A guy who needed to really be handed a dose of ouch.
A guy who needed to be handed a dose of ouch. Well said. Look, he's a real person who is able to rebuild and become sober and build himself in a better, stronger way. And bravo. And I want to use this opportunity to play another clip in case you guys haven't seen this when I shared Hugging the Cactus. He shares an example
to present this award to me for a reason.
He talks about Mel Gibson. Now, Mel Gibson's another person who, for a lot of people, will never get forgiveness based on what he said due to his own alcoholism and such. But he asked Mel to give this award and tells this story.
Because when I couldn't get sober, he told me not to give up hope, and he urged me to find my faith. Didn't have to be his or anyone else's as long as it was rooted in forgiveness. And I couldn't get hired, so he cast me in the lead of a movie that was actually developed for him, and he kept a roof over my head, and he kept food on the table. And most importantly, he said that if I accepted responsibility for my wrongdoings, and if I embraced that part of my soul that was ugly, hugging the cactus, he calls it, he said that if I hugged the cactus long enough, I'd become a man of some humility, and that my life would take on a new meaning. And I did, and it worked. All he asked in return was that someday I help the next guy in some small way. It's reasonable to assume that at the time he didn't imagine the next guy would be him. Or that someday was tonight. So anyway, on this special occasion, and in light of the recent holidays, including Columbus Day, I humbly ask that you join me, unless you are completely without sin, in which case you picked the wrong industry, in forgiving my friend his trespasses, offering him the same clean slate you have me, and allowing him to continue his great and ongoing contribution to our collective art without shame. He's hugged the cactus long enough.
It gets me because so many people, right? So many people are just going to write both of these men off. Some of these people in today's culture would just write off Robert Downey Jr. and say he's not worth saving. Kick him out. Take him out of the tribe. We don't need him. And same thing with Mel Gibson. But these are humans. These are real people who have erred and clearly have hugged their cactus, who clearly have lived there. And so many of these people who are out there doing the judging, I feel like have never been there. They've never had to hug a cactus. They've never had to really face their own inner demons. No, they don't have demons. They're sinless, right? They don't make mistakes. It's so frustrating to watch. And so seeing Robert Downey Jr. be out there, remaining loyal to his friend who is not popular at that day, Mel Gibson, still to this day, a lot of people giving Mel Gibson crap, refusing to accept based off of things he said and accusations of his ex who was recording him, and who knows what was really going down in all that situation. All I know is he had some problems with alcohol, clearly had some problems with alcohol. And a lot of people struggle with alcoholism, and it makes you a bad person. A lot of people struggle with a lot of things that end up making them a bad person. A lot of people struggle with just being unhappy and turn selfish or angry and don't know any other way because they just don't have the means to get therapy or get help or have a support system around them. And when we push people into that nothingness, when we take them out of the tribe and cancel them and say, oh, you're whatever, people don't understand that not everybody can handle that. Not everybody can handle that. And so it's really impressive to see someone like Robert Downey Jr. who's been there, who's made it through, and made himself a better person, who was able to hand that dose of ouch and turn it into something better. We're all trying, but I see myself sometimes in my own case nowhere near the level of Robert Downey Jr. level of earning that forgiveness or work. But I'm just saying, as a person who's needed to, handed his own dose of ouch, I relate to it so much that, we try our best, but sometimes the world just wants to keep kicking us while we're down, using it as nope, you still can't. We're going to judge and assume who you are. We're not going to have been there through your struggles. We're just going to assume we know your struggles. And yeah, you're not canceled because, look, you're on YouTube, so you must not. People are watching you. You don't have any problems still based on the things that happen. You don't have any psychological problems. You don't have any inner demons that you're still constantly wrestling with. No, I'm sure Robert Downey Jr. still is just a perfect person now. Yay, we can not have to worry about his own inner struggle. I'm sure he never struggles with his own sobriety or other problems in his life. Of course he does. We all do. That's the reality of life. Mel Gibson, Robert Downey Jr., whoever it is. Yes, people need to take accountability for their actions. Yes, when somebody does wrong, they deserve to be called out. They need to learn so they can be educated. But we have to be better people. And I applaud people like Robert Downey Jr. who have the guts to help their friends, even if their friends aren't very popular in the industry or in society, to do it for the sake of humankind. So bravo, Robert Downey Jr. Loved this quote. I'm glad he was able to find that strength and join it into Iron Man. I hope he's able to continue it further. But even if he doesn't, I know people are always like, Robert Downey Jr., he's just Iron Man. He's never going to have another hit. It doesn't matter. He's going to have that forever. And he's going to come back to Iron Man. Come on. But he's going to have that forever. Added to all the other brilliant performances he's done, from Tropic Thunder to Chaplin. I mean, the dude's done Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang. Brilliant work and so much more to come. And we wouldn't have gotten that if Mel Gibson hadn't helped him and helped him learn how to forgive himself. That's the biggest problem. So many of us don't know how to forgive ourselves. We are constantly told we're terrible people. We're constantly shunned. We don't know how to then deal and talk about that. It's such an important thing to be there for your fellow human beings, for just to be kind. Everybody's going through something. I learned that the hard way. Everybody, your friends, everybody, people you don't engage. Somebody who pisses you off because they're having a bad day, something's going on in their world too. We got to be more open and kind to each other. Thank you, Robert Downey Jr., for always being kind and out there and putting the good word. Thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing and helping me rebuild. If you want to continue to help me rebuild and hear my hot takes, hit that subscribe button, hit the all alerts, smash that like button, and leave a comment down below of some encouraging words for me, for anybody, or some you've heard from something else. I'd love to have some of that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more here on Popcorn Planet.